Let's take a moment and talk about different ways of cutting this fabric. I'm going to go back to this nice batik fabric. And to make this a little bit easier for myself, I don't always cut the strip. Sometimes I like to tear the fabric. Now I find if it's 100% cotton, it tears beautifully. If you've got a cotton polyester blend, sometimes you'll get little straggler threads, but I really don't mind. It's a rag rug. But what helps is to create a template. And I like my strips to be about 1.5 inches wide. So I took a piece of cardboard and I cut it so it's 1.5 inches wide, and I'll lay it on the fabric and cut a nice deep slit into that. Now, please don't worry that if it's a little off, maybe it's only 1.25 inches, or maybe it's 1.75 inches. It seems to all correct itself as you work. But I'll cut these nice deep strips in here. And if I've bought a bolt of fabric that's 8 yards long, think about how long your strips can be. That is a real advantage. If you're using old clothes and you're cutting up the kids' pajamas and Granny's old nightgown, you're working with smaller pieces, and I will show you how to join those as well. But when I can have 8-yard strips, that is just a good day. So to make this manageable, I might just stop at this point and simply tear the fabric. And then, this isn't too long. I think I can handle this myself. If not, grab a grandchild, grab a friend to grab every other thread or strip and pull on it. Let me show you. I'm going to keep this one and toss that one to this front. Gather this one, and the next one I'll go to the front. Grab this one and leave this one go, and then when I grab all of them and pull, I've now created a lot of strips. Very quickly, it works so efficiently, and those little torn ends, they all seem to fold in really well as you're beating that down. You'll have no trouble at all. Quick and easy, down and dirty, and get your kids involved with it. It's a lot of fun activity. Okay, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more at this point about sort of the fine-tuning of preparing these rags so you can get them onto your shuttle and get started with the weaving. So what I did is I took a piece of that tie-dyed flannel sheet and tore it into a 1.5 inch wide strip. The rug that I was thinking about using this with, though, is a weft-faced rug. And so that has a wider set, but it's going to require just a little bit narrower rag strip than the 1.5 inches. If I leave it at 1.5 inches wide, it's not going to pack down and cover the way I would like it. So I need to get a little bit narrower, and I feel a little bit more confident in tying or cutting this maybe at 1.5 inches and then cutting it again and tearing it down to 3/4 inch. So I'm going to start by taking the rag strip that I previously torn and just eyeballing it, cut right in the middle of the rag strip, something like that. And then tear it down all the way to the end, but not through. I want to leave about 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch at the end, still connected and joined. So here we are. I'm getting close to the end. Don't pull it all the way through, otherwise you'll have two short ends. And I want to get a nice long continuous end. But you see how this is bulky at the end? I'm going to trim it up so it turns much easier. So with these nice sharp scissors, I'm cutting a little loop in there, and then at either end of this rag strip, I'm going to taper it with a 4 to 5 inch long taper. That's important. So when I end one rag strip and join the other one, they're simply going to overlap, and when they beat down, you're not going to be able to see where they've connected. And I'll do the same thing with the other end, and I'll do this all ahead of time as I'm winding my shuttles. Sometimes I'll spend an entire evening just in the rag preparation. That way, the following night, I can just dig right in and just weave, weave, weave. I'm going to use a ski shuttle this time and lay the rag against the body of the ski shuttle, hold it with my thumb, and go all the way around, winding it and winding it, exerting a little pressure on that. And I should be able to get between 2 and 3 rag strips at this point on there. You can see I've got a little bit of room on either side, so I could put another one and another one. You don't want to get it too heavy because depending on how large your shed is, you want to be able to get a clear shed so you can get it through. So don't make it too chubby. 2 or 3 strips are about all you're going to need. Now, in this instance, I had some beautiful wool fabric, and I was able to get these little rolls done at a yard sale or at a guild sale, and somebody had cut these. They're a little wider than I want, but it's going to make a very, very heavy, thick rug. But the individual actually overlapped the strips and sewed it under the sewing machine to join it. And then, of course, there was a little flap. They had cleaned off all those little flaps on here. So this is ready to go. I can use it this way, or again, I could cut it down into long strips. But this shuttle, the rag shuttle, is ideal for that because, can you see? Those rags fit very nicely onto this shuttle, and I can lay them flat and get many, many yards of the wool fabric wound onto here. And again, I don't want to go much beyond the height of that shuttle and those rims because I want to be able to utilize that wood to be able to slide it through. But as I wind it on, I'm pulling a little bit, and here comes the next color. This is going to make one fine looking rag rug. Now, I know sometimes you're working with old clothing or maybe just small pieces of leftover quilter's cotton. When we tore this was beautiful batik fabric, but the lengths aren't very long. And so rather than spending a lot of time trying to taper and then join and taper and join, I want to join all of these fabrics together into a long continuous strip. So what I'm going to find the easiest way to do this is to take and just fold the end over, maybe for about 1 inch. And I'm taking my scissors and cutting into it, but not all the way through. Can you see I've made a nice little opening here? I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Fold it down for about 1 inch. Maybe keep my thumb right there so I know not to go all the way through, and cut another slit. So now I have 2 slits. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to lay the one on the right side on top of the lower fabric and bring the end up through and pull it through something like that. And then just gently connect them like so. Voila, I've now got a connected strip. And I can put a dozen or more of these together, maybe different colored rags together. That way I've eliminated having to sew them under a sewing machine, and it makes a nice clean join at this point. You don't have to worry about too large of a bump with that. It's a very quick and easy way to do it, and actually a whole lot of fun as well.